Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back to the show, y'all. It's your boy Kenny, and it's my main man Skips over there, aka Anthony. How are
Hey.
y'all doing on this Monday afternoon? We just got done watching none other than one of the most anticipated series coming out this year in 2022, off of one of the biggest series in the last decade. And
Mm.
I ain't talking about My Little Pony. It's House of the Dragon, man. Game of Thrones. We're
Yeah.
talking about the premiere episode. Look at that dragon. It looks fucking glorious. Look at it. Look at
Huge.
it.
My
It's huge.
gosh.
Size does matter, people. Size does matter. All right. House of the Dragon, man. We're up in this thing. We're doing it live. Not necessarily, but we are up in this thing. We're talking House of the Dragon, the premiere episode. My main man Skips over here. He is a big fan of Game of Thrones. Seen all, is it 8 seasons?
It was sort of 8 seasons, yeah.
Yeah, 8 seasons. He's seen them all from the beginning. He saw all the watch parties. He saw all of it, man. He saw the White Wedding. He saw the Battle of the Bastards. All this crazy shit that I only know in name only. I have seen literally 2 episodes, Battle of the Bastards being one of them,
Yeah.
and I've seen a couple scenes and know a handful of characters, most of the actors. So I know jack shit barely. He knows everything. So we got two whole different perspectives going into this one, guys. And before we go any further, click the like button, man. It's right there. It's like
Hit the
right
bell.
there. Hit the bell. Hashtag more cowbell, man. We're trying to make some sick beats up in here, and we need more cowbell up in that beat. And we're talking about, it's an analogy. You get it. Hit that cowbell, man. You're going to get a whole notification whether you want them personalized or if you want every single piece of that dopeness from Fandom Frequency coming straight into your feed every time we upload new content, which is going to be every single week to the end of time. So you're stuck with us
Mhm.
to the end of time, y'all. But from the Game of Thrones expert himself, I would love him to kick this thing off and let us know, what did you think of the series overall? What did you think of this premiere episode, my man?
I was kind of skeptical at first, especially how they
Right.
left off season 8. I feel
As
like
in
a lot
most
of
of Game of Thrones fans, man. I was going into this thing loosey goosey, chilling.
yeah, yeah, like I was very skeptical about it of how they're going to go about with how they're going to story tell these brand new characters that we haven't really seen before.
Right.
A lot. I thought I would have figured that maybe I might be wrong. There probably a few name mentions that I didn't catch from like Game of Thrones originally. That they probably threw some names over there as a story of long before time. But I
I
didn't
think
really
they mentioned the Lannisters
the
and the
Lannis
Starks. I think we saw someone from the Starks or something, or they said it.
within the houses. Yeah, within the
Yeah.
respected houses, we've seen some of that towards like the end when
Mhm.
Millie ends up being the actress. She ends up being like queen and stuff like that. I forgot her actual name. I'm
I
still getting
know.
used to all the names and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
like mentioned before, a lot of the characters that we see, we haven't seen any of them at all, obviously, because this is set 172 years in the past from Game of Thrones.
Season 1, right?
And season 1, yeah, since like actually no, since like yeah, I would say no, if I can
'Cause I don't
remember
know
what
if
they
there's any,
said.
like, flashbacks and things of that nature.
There has been a couple of flashbacks, but I think with what they were talking about with the Targaryen bloodline
This
wasn't until
takes place before anything in
yeah,
the original series.
yeah, this is like beforehand when the Targaryens were like the head rulers of everybody in
Oh,
Westeros,
okay.
pretty
So
much.
this was the period that's talked about in Game of Thrones where they're the shit. They're, like, the main people doing
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, and they were like the most feared because for good reason. They pretty much had dragons
10,
as
right?
they had like yeah, I
Yeah.
think it was a good
I
amount.
think
Yeah,
they dropped I think they said it 10 exactly, I think.
yeah, and then like they had something like that. I mean, come on, like how are you gonna fight a dragon with
Yeesh.
foot soldiers? There's no
Swords and
way.
shit.
Yeah, we
Throw
seen
the
it, and
spear.
yeah, like
Fuck.
we seen that in episode and season 8 when they were like when the Lannisters were trying to fight them off in King's Landing, and they didn't really. The dragon just whooped everyone's ass pretty much.
Damn.
But there's a reason why the Targaryens were pretty much the rulers for the time being. But going back to like my main thoughts, I thoroughly really did enjoy the show. It brings me back. It just brings me back to like the early feels or like the prime kind of like I guess the prime feeling of when Game of Thrones was kind of at their peak. You kind of like want to go back to like Westeros, King's Landing, kind of finally be back
Right.
there, revisiting the lands. Now we're being told a story of the before time and seeing how the politics were before. Because the
It's almost
main thing with
like the old Republic of Star Wars in this world, right? Like you're getting to
y-
see the whole setup of why everything is the way it is now, or in the time you're used to seeing.
yeah, and like you see, like there is some mentions with one of the main plots that I really hated how they handled, which is the harsh cold winter that they were mentioning about, like how like the north of White Walkers is pretty much going to be
Okay, so that's
overtaken.
what it is. Okay, that's what I was
There,
thinking. I was like, is this tying in all the White Walker zombie dudes and all that?
yeah, and it's
That's the prophecy, if
that's the
I'm not
props.
mistaken. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and the way they, and again, a lot. I feel like a lot of people would agree with this. The way they handled that was such a, it wasn't great. It was very rushed from, I would feel like, in everybody's perspective, because they
Mm.
handled that whole hype, even going on from this show. They ended it within, I would say, like an episode or two. I would actually give it a solid episode, and I hated that because that was a huge
It's like
built up
multiple seasons. It's building up like the whole time, right?
since season one, episode one.
Jeez, man.
You seen the
It's the
first
end
White
game, the
Walker.
Thanos and all that, man.
Right, and then
Wow.
now they did something like this to end it off within this, like, oh, one of the characters was caught, and she had that one weapon to sneak behind her back just to get that sucker punch, and it wipes out the whole White Walker Legion pretty much, and that's it, and that was it, and then that's why I got so frustrated, and I remember I was watching it with a group of people, and they were like, "Well, that's kind of lame. We thought it was going to be more of a huge moment." I personally would have had like wouldn't mind like half a season if they were to go minimum, or a full
Uh,
season
like a
talking about
two-parter Breaking Bad style, like do
something
an
like that.
8 episodes, or like Ozark, 7 episodes, 7 episodes, something like that, where they
Yeah,
had room to breathe, but they didn't have to go on and do a whole nother full season necessarily, and people can move on. But you want to like wrap up the story in a satisfying way, in a sense.
yeah. A lot of that, because like like when I was theorizing like before like the whole season 8 and stuff like that, I'm like, oh man, they got to have like at least a good like half season or even a full season talking about like how like the White Walkers are like are like slaughtering the living, and they're going back to King's Landing as their final hope, and they kind of had to this is like the last stand of the living, and all this other stuff for them to like fight them off and have some epic conclusion or something like that. But
Right,
it never had ended that way, and that's when we
man.
had that reference in the past with like that little talk at towards the end of
Yeah,
the House of the Dragons,
between the
which
King Viserys
Viserys.
and what's her name? What's her name?
I only know like the address's name. It's
Millie Alcock, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, like
Millie. But yeah, between Millie Alcock's character and Patty Considine's character, which she's in some of my favorite movies actually. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Seeing him in like
y-
Hot Fuzz and fucking World's End, So that's pretty
yeah.
fun.
So like that's why it's just like I like knowing a little bit of that. I think I'm still gonna thoroughly enjoy the show because like the whole point of Game of Thrones is like kind of like like that the politics game. Like
Yeah,
everybody want to gain that power of control, and you've
right.
seen some of that throughout this episode, talking about like,
Yeah, for sure.
oh, like the wife end up dying and stuff like that, and the
Oh,
son.
gee.
So talking about who's gonna be the new, who's gonna be the new
Yeah,
ruler
yeah. Oh
of the
shit,
rest
it
of us,
died. Whatever.
like I know you're in a crucial time and all that, but who like, oh, let's go to this topic right away. There's always that type of conversation of
The
trying to
Iron
see
Throne, right? That's like
of
the
the Iron
big.
Throne,
Yeah, I
that
was like,
like
I remember hearing that, so I was like, all right, so this is way back in the day, them trying to figure out these politics. And if I'm not mistaken, has there been a female or female? God damn it, what am I talking about? Has there
mhm.
been queens on the Iron Throne in the Game of Thrones timeline of the 8 seasons? There is that like common now? Like that actually happens?
No, I think the only one who really did reclaim it, if I could remember, was what's her face, Daenerys. Like
Oh,
she
and
was
that's
like
that one actress, right?
Emily
Uh,
Clark.
Amelia Clark. It was Daenerys.
Emilia Clark, yeah, Daenerys. She
Okay,
was
so Daenerys Targaryen ended up taking the Iron Throne. That's the
she,
thing that everyone was upset about, right? Right?
well, like a
Or
lot
the
of
way
people,
they did it, but not who they
the,
chose, right?
the way they did it, I think with her, I wouldn't mind it. But the
Yeah,
thing
because she's
was
one
is
of the
that
fan favorites, I think.
she was a huge fan favorite. I remember a lot of people were like praising her, going from where
Yeah.
she was, like at the very first part of the show. She was pretty much, if I could remember, she started off as like kind of like that servant and stuff like that
Mm,
towards one of her relatives. I forgot his. It's been a long time since I've seen the earlier
right.
seasons, but she started off as somewhere like in that position, being kind of the servant, kind of trying to carry that bloodline a little bit to where she is now. She has like these 3 dragon eggs with her. She was caring for throughout the whole time frame, and she's like dealing with all of these like harshmanships and stuff like that throughout the whole story. And then like at the
Okay.
end, she kind of like finally has that payback when the dragons actually hatched and they started actually,
Fucking
growing.
the shit up.
They got to the point where they're like going to be adults and they're fucking shit up. And she was kind of like, I want to be the ruler. But I think for me, what I didn't like is like how they went about like how she ended up going like mad with power, which kind of makes
That's what
sense.
I heard too. Yeah, like she's like it's like such a jump. They're like, I can
Yeah,
see it, but it's like it just feels like y'all jumped 10 steps just to get to step 10. Like y'all jumped, you went from 8, you did 1, 2, 3, 10. Like you just where's the other fucking steps at? Like what
that's
happened?
that's what a lot of people were saying about season 8. It felt like it was so rushed, and that's why a lot of people bashed the writers. It was like D and I forgot the people call them
Benioff and Weiss, right?
yeah.
Yeah, dude. They were supposed to do Star Wars, bro. It got canceled after
I'm,
this.
I'm glad that they did, because like the way they handle it, it was just such a because like I get that they didn't know what to do, because like at a certain season, I think it was seasons 5 or 6. It was one of those 2 seasons
Hmm.
that they were starting to come up to be caught up with the books, and the
Okay.
writer George, he didn't finish the
Yeah.
books at all.
I've heard that.
So
Yeah, he still ain't finished, right?
he hasn't finished it till this day.
Jesus.
And they had
Uh,
like they had like what I read from like very like a bunch of like online sources, like George had like cliff notes of what he thought what he thought he was gonna do with the ending of the whole series, and they gave
Gotcha.
it to the writers and like, this is what I thought about it. This you know
This is
this
what
is what
makes
it
the
is.
most sense,
Yeah,
and
this
this is
is
the
what it is.
direction I would like to end the overall narrative on. Here's a guideline of how you can line this up the way you have in the past. So
Yeah,
did they go away from that completely? And did they do what the Star Wars trilogy just did and said, "Get the fuck out of here, George"? Or
they kind of did that. They probably, from the cliff notes, he probably for sure took some material from it, but really didn't give it justice. I feel like for
I see.
them, like,
Execution more than the general ideas, plot lines, you name it. It's the execution, not necessarily what they're executing. It's the execution of it.
yeah, and like from what I heard too in the past is that they could have easily done more seasons with.
Yeah, like they could have did like at least just one more just to let the stuff tie up in a little bit of a more organic way. I think Ozark could have used another smaller season as well, just to tie up
Easily.
a few loose ends. That's all, like a 5 episode miniseries. Tie up the stuff with Ruth in a little bit more of a concise way. Even the same ending, just give it a little more room to breathe. What happens to the sister cartel stuff? Well, what happens with all that? Does Wendy actually get hers? What happens when Jonah shoots this person? Like, what's the
Right?
end game of these things? What drives someone to jump to that much of a? Why would you write off 2 people that have killed people if you're just gonna jump and kill somebody? It's like there's no like you said, it's just rushed. So it's like
It's
I
like
don't
an
know
over.
why with Game of Thrones they would do that when they could have just end game this thing, did one more final epic shorter miniseries season that just would have wrapped up everything. They'd have been on such a high note. They could have did House of the Dragon even earlier. They could have had a whole nother spinoff popping off by now with much
Yeah,
more fan favor than this one's getting. Because I think this is going to build up hype as it goes along. Because really, with this being Game of Thrones, bro, the hype's way down than what you would expect if it ended after season 6 or something, and you think there's gonna be a spinoff, you'd have been like, "Holy shit!" Right
yeah.
now, people just seem like, "I'll check it out."
I think that's some of the damages that the writers end up doing and what's
Yeah, like
happening
just
in
with one
season 8.
season, that's so crazy to me.
It's a
7
huge.
seasons straight, and they just fuck up one season essentially for most people. I'm
and
like,
I
damn, man.
and I feel like a lot of you'll notice how I usually notice like the earlier seasons. I think the more they came close to like the ending of the series or the book storytelling with all their material, they kind of like you can kind of like see like them trying to improvise their own ideas. And
Mm,
what I've noticed is that the earlier seasons, it was like very well written with the dialogue, the story, the whole story during the like the beginning was much more interesting and a little bit more of like it got me hooked. Like I thoroughly enjoyed like the pacing of it a lot more in compared to like the later seasons. Like the later seasons, like they would have like a journey, a person going from like somewhere in like King's Landing, like we'll say Jamie. Well, like Jamie Lannister, like he's one of like the main characters and stuff like that, and like how what his journey of trying to find his brother, go to the north and stuff like that, and then like him being involved within the war within like the Starks and the Lannisters. Like it took him a while for them to travel from point A to point B, but in the later
Oh.
and you had a lot of story in between that. But as the episodes or the seasons went on, they kind of like
Mm-hmm.
cut that very short, and they kind of just like got it straight to the point, which wouldn't mind it, but I kind of did appreciate it a lot at the time when I kind of reflect back onto it a little bit more, because like you kind of see that character going on their own journey, um, and see their character develop, because that's pretty much what happened with Jamie Lannister. He turned to a whole different person as when he started traveling up to the north to rescue his brother Tyrion. That leads to the Stark and Lannister war, pretty much. So there's
Okay.
right now that's like what my great appreciation for it for Game of Thrones, but for the House
Excuse
of
me.
the Dragons, it's you kind of get the political game with it, and I do like that a lot with that whole gain of power and stuff like that. And off of the first episode, the violence, I think they mentioned, and I noticed like there like the violence and gore is kind of cut back like a little bit more when it comes to like the live action, because like I
Hmm.
noticed like there was like a scene with like when the golden cloaks, what's his face, Damien, with him and his crew going throughout like the city and going on that little massacre charade and all
Yeah,
that
Matt
stuff.
Smith's character. Yeah, man.
Yeah, like a lot of the scenes, like I know they cut up like a lot of nudity from it, because the guy getting his balls chopped off, they would have shown it in Game of Thrones, like his whole dick and
Damn.
balls.
Really?
Well, like, yeah, they would have shown I actually shut it like cut off, but it was like off. That camera angle was to the point like they had that more of like, oh, we're not gonna show it to you, but we're
Yeah,
gonna
they pull back a little bit. They're
yeah,
suggestive, more suggestive than
more
in
suggestive
your
than
face. And that might
yeah,
just be different filmmakers in charge on this one as opposed to Benny Hoffman and Weiss. So it's probably just
yeah.
that difference of filmmaking style. Which what would you say you prefer? Do you like it more like this, where when fuckers get their eyes cut out, you see it, but you don't necessarily see everything, or do you like it just balls to the wall, literally? Fuck it, show it to me.
Balls to the roll. I think that's what made the whole lot of talking points. Because like
That's true, man. That's true.
if we had something like what Oberon, I think that's his name. Hold on, let me double check. There's a with the mountain. I think a lot of people probably remember like the name on top of my head. It's played by Pedro. It
Oh,
was
Pedro Pascal's character. I don't know his name, but I know he played a character on there.
Oberyn Martell.
Oh,
He
okay.
hit with him. He was fighting the mountain, and then like the fight was going into his favor, but he made like a one like misstep. Pretty much, he kind of got cocky. But the way he went out, I feel like they would have like they would have probably cut it at some certain point, because the way he
Oh
died,
wow.
he got his head pretty much like crushed in by the mountain, and the mountain, like, remember this guy's
Damn.
tall as shit, and you see his brains kind of like splattered out, his eyes
Oh,
gouged out, and I
holy
feel
shit.
like and
Damn.
that's something that I don't think they would really
They
show.
might not do in House of the Dragon, huh?
They probably won't. I can't really say until we see more, but
Yeah.
off of first episode,
Off
like
this one, yeah, because they're kind of pulling punches a little bit, you'd say, comparatively to that. Because for me, I
definitely,
was like, this is pretty gnarly still, but I don't have the comparison. So
definitely, I would say like the one scene that they kind of like they kept it kind of in like true in
the C
comparison
section,
was a C-section
yeah, bro.
scene,
I was like, I've never
because
seen one of these before. Fuck.
that's how like that's pretty much like how like the old
That's the
Game of Thrones
tone of
version
Game
to
of
be,
Thrones.
like that tone of intensity. Like the guy getting his head chopped off during the purge, like we would have seen his head cut off straight up, and then like they would have
Yep.
thrown his head right onto the wagon. taken off, just like how it was shown,
Yeah, I
but you
noticed
actually
that
see the
cutaway, bro.
execution.
That I noticed. I was like, "Oh shit!" Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen clips of them cutting up people. I was like, "Okay, that's a little pulled back for
Yeah,
sure." But
and
the
then
jousting, I liked that they kind of leaned into it more.
the jousting, like, they leaned into it a little bit more, but they kinda, like, pushed it back a little bit because like, they had the similar scenes too, but
Oh,
when, like, they would break,
you
I
were just
remember yeah, what, like, like, when the joust would break, pieces of shard would still hit you, and it's still a possibility, and it'll stab through you, and then it could be a
oh,
possibility of you still
right.
bleeding out, and then
Dang,
that's something that, like, they didn't really show. I thought throughout that whole scene, I'm like, "Alright, someone's gonna get bled out because each time they ran into each other, like,
it's just shit flying. Yeah,
yeah, it'll be shit popping in, and then if something's not guarded around your neck area or something like that, you're gonna get punctured, and you're gonna be end up bleeding to death, and you're gonna end up dying.
damn.
That's something that they didn't really go through. They only really
Mm.
had some of that when they were having that scrap fight in the arena, like towards like the end, people were like fighting each other.
Yeah,
They,
bro.
one of them got their head
Holy
bashed
shit.
in, and
This is
then
like hockey, but fucking 10 times worse. I was like, God damn.
pretty much. But I would say like the violence right now, I could say off of this episode, they are pulling back a lot more.
Hmm.
But when it comes to like that heart, like drenching scene of like the C-section and then like figuring out like finding out like the son didn't make it, like that was
Yeah,
like I'm
that
like,
definitely
okay.
didn't pull no punch. Yeah.
I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad that they're still somewhat kind of clinging on to like willing to go that far. I'm hoping later on
Right.
throughout the episodes we get to see
Even further and further as things
more
like ratchet up. Yeah.
yeah, seeing something in that direction. But
Yeah.
as of right now, like I'm thoroughly enjoying like the whole story of it. I'm enjoying
Me too.
like
Love the setup right now, man. Really digging
yeah,
it.
yeah, and then like the Iron Throne, like let's get to this. Like the Iron Throne is completely different than what we've seen in like Game
Oh,
of Thrones.
is it?
Yeah,
Ah.
because like it's only like what you see as the chair, like they have that and a couple of swords, like like the
Oh, it's like
swords come
more
from
swords, right? It's like
it's
more.
It's like
Ah.
now it's more service, but instead of like I guess he wanted like to keep it realistic because like in the books it's more like high tower in the background, a lot of
Oh
the
shit.
swords and stuff like that.
Uh,
But now they kind of spread it out like outwards towards the left or
mm,
right side before you walked up to the throne. So that's like the
okay.
one difference that I noticed. Like they stretched out the swords out on both ends of the chair a lot further than what it was
Hmm.
than what we've seen in Game of Thrones and stuff like that. So
Interesting, man.
that
See, this
was
is why it's good you know this stuff, man, because I wouldn't have picked up on any of those nuances right there.
yeah,
Oh
like
man.
that was like the first thing I realized. I was like, "Oh my god." But for me, what I always liked was like the visuals, the cinematic views of like certain shots and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I've
man. That
always
seemed very
enjoyed it.
consistent. And it was
Yeah.
super cool in here, man. I love the establishing shots. Like the shot I
Mhm.
have in the background of the video right now, that was my
Yeah.
favorite shot of the entire thing, other than probably the very ending with the dragon
Yeah.
close
Yeah.
up there. Man, and these dragon effects look so fucking great, dude. They look like
And
they're fucking there. Like that didn't miss a beat at all from what I saw from previous footage. So
oh
that was
no.
definitely an on point. Costuming and set design was on point, man. Like they picked up right where they left off. Great
Yeah.
shit, man. Like, and the action was at least still like visceral, I would say. You know what I'm saying? Not as violent, but I would still say like you're in there in the same way for the most part. We haven't had them on the same level yet, but they're not as big of fights yet. But it
Yeah.
seems like I think they'll go there for the most part, maybe when those big fights come. It's
Yeah.
kind of a
Like
peaceful time, right? So maybe
I
people just aren't as like savage, I guess you could say.
it's
Like
more it's
it's
like
in
more
them, but
the
they're not as like used to it all the time. So I guess it's like they got to bring it
yeah.
out of them a little bit.
I think when more conflict comes about, because
Yeah.
right now, like this episode of the premiere is like you're learning the characters of who's who, what's the
Yeah,
situation
like,
gonna
there's
be.
that whole thing with Matt Smith's Damien character, him and his bro are, like, beefing now, and then,
Yeah, and
the daughter's taking up the throne, so she's gonna be the new heir, which ultimately sexist people are gonna be upset about, you already know it.
yeah, they're gonna have some of that, but then again, there's gonna be, and it's gonna create like a huge plot, a huge plot of like a female ruler, because it's like how they
Yep.
mentioned throughout the episode, they never had that for hundreds of years.
Nope.
If that was the case, I'm pretty sure they would bring it up an argument saying like, well, if
Oh,
that was the
yeah.
case, someone in the past would have easily done it, and they could have still had held their power at that point in time. I'm sure
Damn,
there's gonna be
man.
a lot of people be saying that, and a lot of people and a lot of maybe as a possibility a lot of houses aren't liking that idea of a
Mm.
queen ruler and that's where a lot of conflict of what we're seeing so far is going to end up becoming, and that's when the political game is going to
A lot of that
be
world
about.
building that people are looking, kind of all the Game of Thrones fans are looking for. It seems like they're really setting up these dominoes to fall over quite well right now. I gotta say, we'll see how the rest of the season progresses, but really good setup and really easy to understand for people like me that are very just new to all this. I really
Yeah,
enjoy that fact where I'm able to follow everything for the most part. I don't know all the names, I don't know all the characters of like the other houses, but I think I'm going to learn that as the time goes on. We're focused on the Tangarians.
the Targaryens is,
Targaryen.
yeah.
Targaryen. There you go. So I know we're gonna get into the Lannisters, the Starks, and stuff like that. Because Game of Thrones was kind of like focused between like all the houses, right? Like you
This
get
is
focused on like each one, sort of.
Yeah, this is like at this point, the Targaryens, they're like pretty much gone. There's like very few bloodlines at this point, and they're gonna.
Oh, so those are things that are gonna progress as the timeline goes in from this season. I mean, this show to the old show.
Yeah, because like I believe there's gonna be a certain point in time within the show, because because you realize how like the king Viserys, he was talking about like how like they were able to do a certain magic to control the dragons and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
And I believe the daughter, I think it was either him or the daughter, just saying like the only reason why we're like kind of the rulers is because we have that control. If we didn't, then we're just gonna be like any other house. At that
Mm.
point, it's gonna be fair game, and then that's when it becomes an even playing.
Get more into that chaotic feel of the original series, huh? Kind of
Yeah,
setting that up to why things got to that point, and everyone's
yeah,
just killing off every fucking body. By the
yeah,
time 172 years passes by,
yeah, and then that's what's kind of happening at this point. Like at some point, they're gonna lose that control of power. Um,
paradigm shift. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when it's gonna be kind of like setting up that stage of like, okay, the other like the Lannisters, the Baratheons, the Starks, the there was like another house that they mentioned. I can't remember on top of my mind, but that's when they are gonna realize like, oh shit, well, they don't really have that control anymore, and that's kind of like the only true ruling
That's their
faction that they
edge.
have.
Yeah, that's
That's
their
their edge for them to
yeah.
have us be over. And they were like, okay, well, fuck it. Maybe at some point there you might get that huge revelation of the other houses kind of like banding together to overthrow the Targaryens at some point or whatever it may
Mm.
be. Because I haven't read the book. I know there's a book about this,
Yeah, it's like
but
Fire and Ice or something like
it's
that. I saw it in
it,
the credits, but I know what you're talking about.
the Fire and Ice, that's more of it is a song, but I think that's more of like the latest book and stuff
Yeah,
like
I think I mixed up the titles, but it
that.
showed the
Yeah,
book title in there, so I was like, "Oh, okay, this is based on a book." I didn't know
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and it's like that's where like a lot of like my whole thoughts of the series is like, okay, so how is their downfall going to be? Because
Right.
it's going to be kind of true. Like we don't see a lot of these characters anymore. There might be some surviving at some certain point, and they might have children, and but it'll be like very few. But we're pretty much gonna see like their peak, and we're most likely gonna see their decline as
Start to
time
see
goes
the
on.
decline and the downfall of the
Yeah,
Targaryens.
but
Yeah,
like
man. Hella
I think
interesting, man.
but besides, like, because I can go on like with my point of view and all this stuff. How do you feel with it? Because I know, like you mentioned before, this is like your first time seeing like anything Game of Thrones
From the
besides
jump,
books.
yeah, like a
Yeah.
full on like episode from the jump, man. I really enjoyed it, man. It was really good overall. I like all the actors and all the characters and like the whole setup of the political intrigue and what's the power dynamic and what's going on. I feel like they did such a great job of establishing the world for us newbies very well and very streamlined in a sense of where I get what's going on. I have a sense of who the other power players are. I know who's in charge. I know what the conflicts are. I know who the enemies could potentially be. The prophecy they're headlining, I could kind of see was like the whole backbone of Game of Thrones, not this
Mhm.
series. So I'm like, okay, cool. I kind of see some of the connections here without having to be an expert. And I'll say that's one thing that Game of Thrones is doing great as they're expanding this thing, even better than something like the MCU that's like a veteran in the game. I would say their TV with the way they're expanding things in the films has not been seamless yet across every series and every film. You know what I mean?
That is true. Yeah,
Like
that's because
every single thing yet. Like that's yet. I feel like the synergy will happen, but it's like, it's kind of up in the air a little bit between how they tie into the movies and whatnot. Not saying the enjoyment of them as single entities, but just how they tie together as a shared universe. So I think Game of Thrones is really putting a great step forward in doing so. And yeah, man, like I said, Damien's probably my favorite character right now. He's the most intriguing to me of
Yeah,
everyone in
he's
there.
trouble, dude. I
Yeah,
feel like he's
Matt
gonna be
Smith's
pretty
always
big.
good in these kind of roles, so I think it's gonna be really cool to see where things go with him. But I like that they showed a little bit of a softer side to his character when dealing with Millie's character with his niece. You know, I like
Yeah,
seeing that softer side to the character while you can see that edge and that bloodlust
for
and all
sure.
the negativity of his character. Excuse me. I love seeing all that come through. And yeah, man, like you said, even though they pulled back with the violence a little bit as opposed to how they had done in the past, I still think it was pretty well done here. At least the way it was shot, the way it was filmed and put together. I still felt that it was still pretty visceral where it needed to be and whatnot. And yeah, that C-section scene, goddamn. Now I
That
know. Holy shit. It's
that
not
was
that crazy
intense.
these days, but still. Holy
Yeah,
fuck, man.
imagine that back in the day, dude. Like, holy
No,
shit.
thank you. And
And
just the,
like,
the coldness of that decision. I'm just like, I'm not surprised because, it's these type of times and, medieval type shit in a sense.
yeah.
But I'm
And
like,
then like
damn, crazy.
he like with the father's decision and then like
That backfired big time, son.
huge. Like, and then like I kind of like I thought they were gonna be like, okay, so the son is possibly gonna live. They're gonna have to figure out like what they're gonna do with all that, with that side of the story. But once you kind of hear the breathing, like the baby having trouble breathing, that's when I'm like, okay, so they're officially gonna kill
Yeah, I
off
was
the
like, oh
baby.
shit.
Because once I heard that, I'm like, oh fuck, it's gonna be a 2-for-1. And then like that's when we see the funeral scene. I was like, fuck, dude, that's like what a way to do it. I mean, a C-section scene like that, it's
Highest of
bloody.
highs to lowest of lows, bro.
Yeah, dude. And like the
Woo.
father now is like kind of regretting it because he could have had a chance to save the wife. I mean,
Yep.
easily. And then like most likely he could have sucked it up. It's
Let the
so
kid
good.
go
Hmm.
and do what you did and do what he ended up doing in the first place. Put your fucking daughter in charge, bro. You don't
Yeah,
control genetics. Stop playing God.
you
You know what I'm
can. You
saying?
can.
And it's like
Like,
that whole rigid thinking of it must be a man. Maybe not
yeah,
every woman has what it takes, but it's Targaryens, bro. Come on now. Y'all supposed to be the same shit.
yeah,
Just put who makes sense to be in charge because your brother can't be trusted. And that's a
yeah,
whole thing. What if something happens to the daughter and he gets the throne? That's the one thing I'm most curious about for the duration of this series, depending how long it goes. But yeah, man,
yeah,
I mean, overall, I'm really digging it. Not didn't blow me away or anything like that, but I'm very much excited to see the next episode and to see where things go. And I'm definitely in for the season, man. Unless they lose me really uh big time in
sometime.
the next few episodes, I think I'm all in for season one. So I'm gonna
Oh
see
yeah,
where
I
things
agree.
go. And if I enjoy season one as much as I'm enjoying this first premiere episode, I might even go back and watch the original series, man.
I think if it does go downhill, you should probably still watch the original series up until like maybe season 5, or like stop at season 7 before it gets
I
all
was gonna
that
say I'll probably watch
dumbness.
I'll probably watch the first 7 seasons and then I'll just watch the recap for 8, just so I know what happens, depending on because they're talking about doing a Jon Snow sequel. So
Really? Oh, well, I could kind of
there's been
see something
talks
like
of it.
that.
I don't know if it's a prequel or a sequel, but there's talks of a Jon Snow project. So it would be good to be up to date to know the hell's going on for that series in particular. So I'll
Yeah,
probably check out the OG series, but I just want to wait and see how I like this one first and kind of go chronologically, so to speak,
right,
because there is a
right.
lot going on. I kind of
There
feel like
is.
people that haven't seen Star Wars, I'm like, hey, there's a lot going on. So I'm
There's
just like,
too
I,
much
I just
shit.
want to see it in order so I can kind of get the idea of
Right.
what's going on and get a little more of a clear understanding. But overall, I really dig the series, and I'm gonna give the premiere a 7 out of 10. I freaking like it. What about you, man? What are you gonna give it out of a 10, my man?
I actually might be higher than you, surprisingly.
Oh
I
shit. Well, I don't think that's that surprising though.
Yeah, like, but like I know in the past because like I've always like I've been very cautious of it, but of my ratings and stuff like that.
I feel you,
But
but I'm starting at a 7. Really solid, very entertaining, very much interested. That's why I bump it up over a 6 or something like that because it's
mhm,
still really well done and very interesting. So they've hooked me, man. They've hooked me for the season.
I would say I'm very stuck on like a 7.5 or an 8. I'm like, I don't want to give it an 8 right off the bat, off the first episode,
All right, just
but
split the difference. 7.5, man.
I'll say 7.5 because like no, I'm gonna give it an 8 because I don't know, like I'm like
Oh shit.
this is actually one of the shows it got me hooked and like I
Yeah,
kind
you're
of
more
want.
anticipating it and more like excited to see the potential of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like honestly, I this is more highs for me than like what the shows that we've been given like
Overall,
throughout
this
this
year is
year,
a
overall this
2022.
year is. Yeah, because like throughout like the last couple months, I was like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. And like each episode, especially with Marvel, I'm like I wasn't satisfied with it, like how I mentioned before. And like the only
Right.
thing that came close to it was like Peacemaker. And then that was like, yeah,
Yes,
wasn't it in
the
22?
yeah, very beginning of it. So
Very
yeah, because we're
beginning of
coming
it.
down from Boba Fett, which was a disappointment for me for show. We had finished
Yeah.
Hawkeye, which was a lot of fun. One of my favorite
Mhm.
Marvel series so far. And yeah, but for me, man, I've had a pretty good year overall with TV. I feel you a little bit, but I feel
Mhm.
like overall it's been good, dude. Like The Boys, incredible.
The
Peacemaker,
Boys,
incredible. Stranger Things, incredible.
that's
So
another one.
that's like a
Yeah.
bam, bam, bam. That's a top three that's just kicking some fucking ass. Miss Marvel for me was a very pleasant surprise. Like I
Yeah.
was not expecting to enjoy that even half as much as I did. So just for me and where I was expecting it and my anticipation, it definitely exceeded expectations for me
It's
overall.
Yeah,
And
Miss Marvel was great. I
yeah,
didn't mind that one. I think a lot of people just gave it like such bad,
I
just
know,
like they
man.
critiqued it too hard. Like for some reason, like they bashed it like
I know the
on
reason,
like
but I'm
every
not gonna get into it.
right, right. But like it's
I'm
like the
not gonna get
nitpicks
into
in
it.
there. But I think
But
that like
yeah.
this is
And
for sure.
Demon Slayer, I know you don't watch anime as much, but Demon Slayer was an
Oh,
excellent anime this year. Ozark, while a little disappointing at the very end, I loved everything that led up to the ending though.
got led
It
up
was
to it.
so
Okay,
fucking compelling, especially part 1. I really love season 4 part 1. I still
right.
like part 1 more than part 2, but part 1 is excellent as fuck, man. And
Yeah,
yeah, dude, so for me, I've been more like mostly satisfied, disappointed a couple times. Just
I would.
Boba Fett and Obi-Wan and Moon Knight. Those would be the only ones that were a little disappointing, but still
Mhm.
fun to watch.
I think for me, it's like really the ones that led it up. If I had to make a ranking of like top four, it'll be like legit. Like the boys was fantastic. I loved it. Um, Peacemaker was for sure a surprise, and I enjoyed that show a
Yes.
lot. I enjoyed it
Yes.
like
I
to
have
no end.
one negative of the entire no, two negatives of the entire series. Not
Yeah,
enough of the dad towards the end, and I didn't like the ending with the big monster thing.
yeah, yeah. And then like that was like one of
But that
my
was about
nitpicks
it.
too, for sure. And like that's the thing with like Peacemaker. I think if like it won't Peacemaker will be within the top four, it'll be like in the top four, or like the bottom of the four. Like I would say, like the favorite ones so far would be like the boys would be the top. Stranger Things will be probably on the third, or it might be second. It depends on
Yeah, man. I
uh
got my top 4 locked
how
in,
the
man.
Dragons is gonna be.
Yeah.
But
For me,
for sure,
yes. It's The Boys, Stranger Things, Peacemaker, and then I'm gonna come in at 4th with Miss Marvel. That's right.
Miss
You heard it
Marvel.
here first.
Oh man, dang,
Pleasant
dang.
surprise.
Yeah,
Because
that
I
is.
had no expectations. So it's like if you exceed expectations, I'll reward you more for not quite meeting them or just being pretty good. Like Moon Knight,
Yeah,
I didn't have high expectations, but it was just pretty good.
yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi just missed the mark a little bit for me. Boba Fett was a huge disappointment, and Demon
Huge.
Slayer was really freaking awesome. But I figured
Mhm.
it'd be good because the last season was good, so I wasn't like blown away as much as or I would say I was impressed, but not like completely floored by it. But I was actually really impressed with it.
Right.
And yeah, She Hulk's off to a pretty good start. We'll see where it goes. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna judge it too early. Andor seems like it's my kind of fucking vibe. Cobra
that for
Kai,
sure.
let's fucking go.
That's why, like,
So
that's why it's
yeah.
kinda hard to really say top picks, but this is for sure one of the ones I would say out of recently, like, I'm kinda pumped to watch it on, like, Sunday nights. Like, all the
Yeah,
other
this one, yeah,
shows,
like, I'm looking forward to it for
like
sure. Like, She-Hulk's like, "Okay, I'm watching it,"
yeah,
but this one I'm actually, like, really, really, like, interested in, like, "Damn, I wonder what's gonna happen this week. I don't even know." It's like
yeah,
a fresh new watch for me. Andor is in, it's like a little bit of half and half, kind of what I'm already what I already love, but giving me a little something new with the Empire and the early days of the rebellion, so it'd be cool to see where they go. I love the vibe of the trailer and the tone, so I'm hoping they stick with that. But yeah, Cobra Kai and Andor, I'm really excited. Rings of Power, I'm actually kind of excited too. But yeah,
yeah,
so between this and House of the Dragon, looks like we're finally getting some good fantasy shit.
yeah, that's, like, the one of the, that's one of the things that I kinda, like, miss. I think just overall, like just the anticipation of just like waiting for a certain episode to come out. I think that's was something that I've been kind of missing. The only thing, like I mentioned, was probably The Boys as the most recent, but before
Yes.
then
Oh, so over the
was
moon with that.
yeah, but before that was like Peacemaker. Everything in
Yeah.
between, I
Those
was
two, I
like,
was like, woo, let's go.
yeah, and then
Yeah,
like
everything else,
everything
I
in
was like,
between, I
okay,
was
I'm
like,
watching it.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, it's on, it's Thursday or Wednesday. Okay, I'll watch it
Yeah,
and
I
just
feel
see
you,
something
bro.
like that. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that this is for sure having that feeling again. I've always loved shows that kind of gets me in that hook. I'm pretty sure everybody would also say the same thing
Hell
of
yeah, for
like
sure.
anticipating of like what's going to be going on throughout this episode week and stuff like that.
But yeah, man. But before we wrap things up, I got a little bit of a preview for the episodes to come right here, man. So we're gonna do a little live reaction to it, my friend. A live
Okay,
reaction.
okay.
So here we go, man. Live reaction to the House of the Dragon trailer titled uh in the episodes to come or something like that. But here we go.
And okay, see what's going on.
From my blood
Mm.
come the
It's Dark Knight
prince
Rises.
with promise, and his will be the song of ice and fire.
All right, there we go again. Ice and fire thing. God, these visuals, man.
I'm telling you, I've always loved the visuals for Game of Thrones.
More dragons. Give me more dragons.
That's like that shot.
Good music in this too.
Yeah, I was gonna say the music is. I've always been liking enjoyed the music throughout the Game of Thrones, and even this. I'm glad they still kept it up. I feel like she's gonna be a problem. Tries to manipulate.
Oh. May do as you wish. Oh, Olivia Cook, my girl, man. I've been saying, where is she at? I can't wait to see her.
Probably next episode for sure.
She's probably like Lannisters or something, right?
Dragons dead.
Her color, not Lannisters. Well,
People
no.
remember the ancient
Maybe
strength of
Baratheon?
House Targaryen.
No king
Well-
has ever lived that hasn't had to forfeit the lives of a few to protect the many.
Oh man. Ooh.
You are no conqueror. You are a plague.
Our houses are bound by a common cause.
Perhaps. But there will be blood.
Yeah, see, there's that warrior you were talking about, bro.
yeah. Honestly, see. Oh my god.
Whoa. That looks like a bad motherfucker, bro.
See, that's like how we mentioned earlier. I feel like a lot of houses aren't gonna like that whole decision
Yeah, bro. Like it's gonna be controversial as fuck, bro.
because they're gonna be like, "Well, what the fuck? You guys are we
Ooh.
kind of been following this for like hundreds of years, and all of a sudden
Now
there's a
y'all just
big
gonna
swap."
change this shit up? What the fuck you talking about?
It's like this is kind of a tradition, like throughout this time period.
Bro, you know what's gonna happen, I bet? They're
Hmm.
gonna be like factions, man. It's gonna be like a civil war with Damien with Matt Smith's character taking on people going on his side to get him the throne. And then she's gonna have to assemble her own people with her pops to go against them, bro. That's what I bet.
It will make sense because, like, I would say I could definitely see that being a kind of a civil war type of scenario,
Yeah,
and
man.
then whoever comes out as a victor, it's not really going to be a victory because they're going to lose all
Exactly.
their resources,
Numbers.
and they're going to be diminished to the point where like the
Downhill,
other
bro.
yeah, that decline we were talking about, and the other
Yep.
houses are going to be like, well, what the fuck? Like a lot of their
Ooh.
dragons are gone or some
Half
shit
y'all
like
niggas
that.
dead and they killed like 3 dragons? Shit, maybe
Yeah,
we
it's
got a
like
chance.
yeah, it's like, you know what? Fuck it. You know, we don't have to like follow you guys no longer. And that's
Yeah.
probably something that we'll probably see throughout the
Going in
time
and
frame.
yeah, into season 1 and season 2 because I don't know how many seasons they've announced or anything for this. And I know there's other spin-offs in the works and all that kind of stuff, but yeah, I'm actually pretty damn excited for these episodes on Sundays now. Like I'm gonna be like, oh damn, I'm actually looking forward to these things.
Yeah, like I wonder if we're gonna see like, well, we won't. Because that's the thing. I'm like, I wonder if we're gonna see like another character, but like I'm like just remembering, I'm like, wait, it's like 170 years later. I'm like, maybe we'll see somebody as a kid, but we'll probably only see like pretty much like the what should we call it? The elders in the sense of them kind of pass
Ah,
on the name and stuff like that from what the
got
characters
you.
that we used to seeing.
But yeah,
So
man,
yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see where this thing goes, man. But we want to hear from you guys down below in the comments, man. Sound off and let us know what you thought about the House of the Dragon premiere. Are you a huge Game of Thrones fan? Are you casual? Have you never watched it before, like your boy here? Let us know. We would love to get into a discussion with y'all. If you're listening on the podcast feed, much love to you. The downloads are hitting close to 800, man. We're getting toward the 1,000. It's incredible to see how far we have came so far as a channel and as a community, man. We're building this thing from the ground up, man. As we discussed earlier off camera, we're doing this thing and we're gonna do this thing and see where we can take it, man. So it's been a blast building this community together with you guys. We're gonna keep it going, and every single week, no later than Mondays, we're gonna be getting our recap/reviews of the House of the Dragon episodes for all 10 episodes as this thing rolls along. And don't you worry, fantasy fans. Rings of Power with my boy Drew. We're gonna have that, guys, coming for you. We're gonna be doing the premiere, and then we're gonna do the entire season as a whole. And I have some other special Middle Earth content that's gonna be going along with that. So make sure you guys stay tuned and don't sleep on any of that goodness. And like I said earlier in the episode here, might be getting into Game of Thrones, the original series, down the line here. So make sure you stay tuned for that. And if you want to see it, let us know, whether it's social media or in the comments. Hit us up and let us know if you want to see it. I know my boy Skippy's always down.
Yeah, I'm always
So-
down for those.
Hell yeah, man. So make sure you guys stay tuned and don't sleep on anything we got going on the channel, man. So much stuff to come. She-Hulk later this week. I got a couple niche movie reviews, and we got another Fandom Frequency Show episode that's going to be live within 24 hours of this going up. So make sure you guys don't sleep on nothing. And until next time, peace out. Stay safe out there, y'all.
Peace.